How many of you have not heard me speak before? Raise your hand. We'll have fun. You know, in our movement, in every spiritual movement, there's a lot of talk about, like the song we sang, there's a lot of talk about peace. Lots on goodness, love, happiness, beauty, joy. And what I'm going to talk to you about this morning is your power and authority. And there may be a little more testosterone in this than you're used to. How'd you like to wake up in the morning? And before you're even fully awake, before you start into your morning rituals, you feel this sense, this feeling start from low inside of you, and it just starts to move up through your body, through your heart, up into your mind, and it can only be finally languaged as, oh goody, another day. How'd you like to go to bed? And as you're snuggling into your covers and fluffing your pillow, again, without any ritual, without any conscious work, you feel this tremendous sense of gratitude, this tremendous sense of joy about who you are and what you're doing with your life. How'd you like to move through your body? Move through your day with a body that's perfectly healthy and pain-free. How would you like to, at the end of every year, as you start to close off the year in late December, and that idea of moving into your new year with a new set of declarations, how would you like to close off your years with the gut-level realization that this has been the best year you've ever had? That's the promise of Science of Mind. Science of Mind is not about enduring conditions. Science of Mind is about changing conditions. Science of Mind isn't about going with the flow unless the flow is going the way you want it to go. And if it's not going the way you want it to go, you have the power and the authority to change the course of the river. Science of Mind is not about giving up your attachments to what you want. Science of Mind is about you making your dreams come true. Because Ernest Holmes is very clear that the road to God is through our personal aspirations and our personal priorities. This philosophy is not about doing God's will. This philosophy is about you making your dreams come true. Because Ernest says it is only through making your dreams come true that you get an experience of who you are. And it's through making your dreams come true that you get an experience of the divine reality that we call God. Now, there may be some of you who are thinking, oh, good, we have a guest speaker who's going to talk about this pie in the sky stuff. Perhaps I ought to give you a little of my background. When I was 23, I had a spinal fusion. I know some of you have heard this story. I do not tell my story to brag about who I am. I tell my story because there are people in this room who right now today feel as if they have no hope. I know what that's like. There are people in this room today who are surrounded with loving, caring people telling them this is the box you need to live in. There are people here today that have a medical prognosis that say what you have is not curable. You're going to suffer the consequences of this physical challenge. I've been there. During the spinal fusion, as I mentioned, my spine got infected with the E. coli bacteria. Over the next year, they did 4 surgeries to cut it out, because back 50 years ago, the only way to get E. coli out was to cut it out. They call it debridement. Last time that my orthopedic surgeon opened me up, he said that it had spread all over. He didn't even do a debridement. He just closed me back up, said this is way out of my league. Transferred me to the University of Washington Medical Center in Seattle, because he said you need all the experts you need under one roof instead of going from this primary care physician and then over to this, you know. So I went in there. It's a great story. I had the worst case of osteomyelitis of the spine they'd ever seen. My doctor was a visiting professor from England. He said, I don't want to be blindsided when I go in to cut out this infection, so I want to do tests to find out how involved it is. So they did tests for 2 weeks. Finally, they got good x-rays. The night before the 6th surgery on my spine, 6 surgeons walked into my room. 6. This orthopedic surgeon from England, supposed to be the number 3 orthopedic surgeon in the whole world. Guy behind him was head of the Department of Infectious Disease. Guy behind him was head of the Department of General Surgery. So they had orthopedics, general surgery, and infectious disease. And what they said is this infection is spread, Terry. It's no longer just in the 2 vertebrae where you had the fusion. It's up and down your spine. It's followed both your sciatic nerves into your thighs. It's throughout your pelvic area. It's throughout your abdomen. And we're pretty sure this E. coli, which just eats things, this E. coli is eating holes in the lower end of your colon, so the germs are communicating back and forth. Not like talking, but like traveling. And he said, we got to stop this now, because this has now become life-threatening. So tomorrow we're going to do the most extensive debridement, cutting out procedure we've ever attempted. We're going to take you down to the operating theater, and first the general surgeons are going to start from the front. They're going to start as low as they can go down here in your pelvic area, come up around your belly button and go almost to your sternum. We're going to open all that up. Cut out all the infected tissue, separate your organs out of the way. And when we get down to the spine, the orthopedic surgeons will chisel and scrape the infection out of your spine. When we're done with that, we're going to roll you over, and the orthopedic surgeons are going to start. They're going to start as low as they can go down here between your buttocks. We're going to come up mid-back. We're going to open all that out, cut up all the infected tissue, chisel and scrape the infection out of your spine. I've told this story 1,000 times, and I can still remember what it was like to lay in that bed that night with these doctors saying, this is what we're going to do. When we're done with that, 2 teams of surgeons are going to start at your belt line, open up both your buttocks and follow your sciatic nerves into your thighs. And when we're done with that, we're going to tip you up on the end and come in from the bottom. They were going to gut me like a dead deer. When he got done, he sat down on a chair, pulled it up next to my bed, reached out and took my hand. That's when I knew I was in trouble, because this guy was not a touchy-feely doctor. He said, I know how radical this must seem, but we've got to stop this now. When we're done with the debridement and the antibiotics that we do have in the drains, we're pretty sure we can stop it from spreading anymore. The bad news is we can guarantee you are going to lose the use of your left leg through nerve damage. And then he just looked at me. And I just looked at him. And he just looked at me. And finally I figured it must be my turn to say something, and I heard come out of my own mouth, that's okay. That's okay. If we've got to do this, let's just get it over with. But even as I heard those words come out of my mouth, I thought, what has happened to me? What has happened that in just 1 year, I would so willingly give up the use of my left leg? But I no sooner said that than he reached up with his other hand, clamped mine between his, and he said, son, we have to do this. The bad news is, the bad news is this, if it's as extensive as we think it is, there's a good chance you will lose some of the mobility of your right leg. You're probably going to lose the control of your bowels and your bladder, and there's a very good chance you're going to end up sexually impotent. That was just before my 24th birthday. When I talk to you about your power and authority, it isn't because I read a few books. If I say something that's a little different today than you're used to, that might, I invite you to get past it. When those 6 doctors left, the resident who'd been with me for the 2 weeks of tests sat on my bed and held me. He held me. This was 50 years ago. He held me. My wife was on one side and he was on the other, and I could feel his presence. When I calmed down, he said, we don't know what's going to happen, Terry. We've never seen anything like this. But what we do know is you cannot expect to come out of this ordeal whole. The name of my book is The Hell I Can't. You have more power and authority than you ever imagined. We talk about it in this movement, but then we sing songs that are mostly about love and joy. When do we get to stand boldly in our own powerful magnificence with our absolute authority on this physical plane? Of course, if you say that kind of stuff, people will go, who do you think you are? And that is the cornerstone of our teachings. When I was in the hospital for the 14th surgery, they sent me to see, because they did that one. The next morning when they went in, the lower end of my colon was just perforated, so they pulled it out, clipped it, sewed it. It's a colostomy. They said, you're going to go to the bathroom in a plastic bag for the rest of your life. A month later, they did that big one. I was on the table for 13 and a half hours, took 27 units of blood. 27. The reason they stopped after 13 and a half hours is they were losing me. When I come out of the coma, they went in to finish it. That didn't work. A couple weeks later, they did another one. Then they did another one. Then they did another one. Then they just started up here about 1.5 inches wide and took all the tissue out of my back and buttocks so they could see my spine, and put me in a body cast for 6 months and laid me on my back while that healed. And that didn't work. I know what it's like to be surrounded and engulfed with disease and loving, caring people that will say, this is the box you need to live in. And even in our movement, if you try and fail and 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 try and fail, when the failures add up to some magical number, I guarantee you somebody in this room will encourage you to give up your priorities. Perhaps the healing you're looking for may not include the healing of your body. Perhaps God has a bigger plan for you than you just getting what you want. It was okay to want to be well in the beginning. This is demanding mental science. You want to take charge of the circumstances in your life, you've got to use these principles. They sent me to see a psychiatrist in the 14th surgery. And he read letters to me from the doctors to the insurance company saying what Terry McBride has is not curable. He will be left with significant permanent disability. He looked up at me and said, son, there's got a good chance you're going to spend the rest of your life in a body that doesn't work. If you come work with me, I can assist you to face those limitations with dignity. And I told him to kiss my... It was not a good exchange. I don't want to learn to live in a wheelchair with dignity. I don't want to learn how to live with a colostomy the rest of my life without my anger. I'm studying these principles. And he said, who do you think you are? We argued and we fought. Finally, I looked at him and I said, look, I know what you guys believe. I'm not making you wrong. I'm just telling you, I'm reading these books. In these books, they say there's a part of me that's not sick. These books, they say there's a part of me that's not afraid. And what these books talk about is that if I can get in touch with that part of me, if I can own that who I really am is that part of me that's not sick, that part of me that's not afraid. What these books say is that if I can own that, from there I can create reality rather than face reality. And this loving, caring man looked back at me and said, Terry, that's your ego talking. Science of mind, in my opinion, is the promise. It is the answer to humanity's prayer. Who am I? Why am I here? And Ernest Holmes is very clear about the answers. Ernest Holmes says who you are is your unique expression of God. We talk about that. It's more than a cutesy little magnet to put on your mirror that says I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. Ernest Holmes on page 121 of Living the Science of Mind says this: whatever you believe to be true about God, declare that to be the truth about who you are. See, science of mind is not about do something and then you'll be okay. All the rest of the disciplines, you have to forgive enough, you have to let go enough, you have to be willing enough, there's all this list of stuff you have to be enough. And it's only through doing enough that then you're holy. What science of mind starts from is you're holy now. You are a unique incarnation of the divine. Whatever you believe to be true about God, declare that to be the truth about yourself. This is the truth that sets us free. This is what Jesus was talking about 2,000 years ago when he said, know the truth and the truth shall set you free. The truth that sets you free is not that you're the adult child of an alcoholic parent, the product of a dysfunctional family, a small self and saboteur leading you astray, or all that other stuff that isn't true. The truth that sets you free is that you are right now a living incarnation of God. Because Ernest says it with this. On page 180, he says, our union with the divine is not that we are one with God. Our union with God is not that we are one in God. For both of these comments imply separation. The truth that sets you free is that you are of God. You are right now some part of that divine essence we call God. It certainly is hard to get your mind around that, because up until recently, if you said that, they killed you. What do you think the psychiatrist would have said sitting in his office, already in my hospital pajamas and my hospital robe and my hospital slippers? If he said, who do you think you are? What do you think he would have done if I'd have said, I think I'm a unique incarnation of God? You do that in a psych ward, they give you a coat that ties in the back. What this center offers you is here you get to study with your sisters and brothers the truth that sets us free. What does it mean to be God expressing uniquely as a man? What does it mean to be God expressing uniquely as a woman? That's what this center is about. That's the core of our teachings. It's the first two steps of spiritual mind treatment. There's one divine presence, and that divine presence and I are one. Because on page 73, Ernest Holmes says this: science of mind is following the example of Jesus in that all people are incarnations of God. That's who you are. And any idea other than that is a lie, claiming to be the truth. That's the first step in science of mind. I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of books written on science of mind. And for me, there are three main points. First one is you're already holy. You're already divinely magnificent. You're the physical incarnation of God itself, uniquely as you. Step one. Number two, the second aspect that I think science of mind brings to the human race is on page, where he says on page 73 of Living the Science of Mind. Jesus did not claim to have exclusive use of the power he used. He knew that others could do what he did if they would only try. So we don't just talk about you're a spiritual being having a human experience. So what? So is this podium. So is this mic. So is your dog and cat. The difference is you and I can know it. We can begin to feel the truth that I'm God expressing uniquely as me. Where else are you going to talk that stuff? At your extended, family dinner at Christmas, you're sitting around with all your extended family and they say, "What'd you learn this week?" And you look at him and say, "I learned I'm God expressing uniquely as me." That's what this center offers you. That's what these teachings offer you. The truth that sets you free. The truth is you're a spiritual being. You're God expressing uniquely as you. And what is that freedom about? Jesus did not claim to have exclusive use of the power he used. He knew that others could do what he did if they would only try. And this is where he said, "The works that I do shall ye do also, and greater works than these shall ye do." That's the second point. 1, you're holy. Number 2, you have an infinite power backing up your belief. And what I love about Science of Mind is they do not tell you you need to forgive enough before this power will back you up, or you need to let go enough, or you have to do this. They don't do that. What Science of Mind comes from is you're already holy, and the infinite power of God is already responding with mechanical regularity to the spontaneity of your thought. Ernest gets a little wordy sometimes. It's already done as you believe. You don't have to forgive enough before it's done as you believe. You don't have to let go enough. We're so busy with all that stuff that we've been taught that we're not enough now that we forget that we're God, and this infinite power is already responding with mechanical regularity to my mind. And when you own that, when you own those two pieces, all that's left then is to do conscious work on your belief systems. This is what Ernest says. You're already holy, you're already magnificent, and this infinite power of the universe is already backing up your belief system, and if you're not getting what you want, just change your belief system. Of course, if you come back and tell people that, they'll look at you and go, "Who do you think you are?" But we've already covered that. The second major principle is that there is this infinite power backing you up. On page 122, Ernest Holmes talks about it this way. The power within you is the law, an aspect of God that is an all-powerful medium. This is the power you have. It's an all-powerful medium. And you have the power to use this medium any way you see fit. That's the freedom we give you here. We don't come in and say you're holy and there's a power, but you can only use the power for this. Some people do. You can only use the power as long as it's for the highest and best good of everybody concerned. You can only use this power if it's not for your ego-centered gratification. I mean, the psychiatrist told me my need to walk was ego-driven. He said, "You're the son of a dead war hero. You think you won't be a whole man if you can't walk on your own two legs." And I looked him right in the eye and said, "You're right. That's the truth of how I hold me, and I'm going to learn to walk on my own two legs." And he said, "Come work with me, and I can assist you to face your human limitations." And I said, "No, thank you." I didn't say it that way. Uncle Larry, my father image, because my dad had been killed in the war, always said, "If something's important, son, it's also important you use strong language." And I remember saying, "Why?" And he said, "I don't know. But the next time you smash your thumb with a hammer, shake it and say, 'Oh, golly,' and see if it helps." The power within you, this law, is an aspect of God that is all-powerful. It's already within you. And you have the power to use this medium any way you see fit. The greatest thing about my healing is not that I got well. The greatest thing about my healing is in the beginning I didn't believe I could ever get well. But I thought maybe I can use these principles so I won't cry myself to sleep every night. And when people said, "Crying is good for you," I said, "I've already done enough. I have the right to use this power any way I see fit, and today I'm going to use it so I won't cry myself to sleep." On page 169 of Living the Science of Mind, Ernest is talking about now, okay, so as we move into this game of really understanding that we're God expressing uniquely as us, that the truth of me is that I'm the living Christ. I'm already the anointed one. I'm already the Holy One. And then number 2, I have the right to use the same power Jesus used. Because this is what he says on 169. Therefore, you may know that everything you do, everything you say, everything you think carries with it divine authority. From my perspective, those 2 ideas are the foundation for this great movement we call science of mind. 1, you're already a unique incarnation of the divine, just the way that you are. You don't have to change to become holy. You're already holy. You're already God expressing uniquely as you. And number 2, you have this infinite power that's available to you to use wherever you see fit. That is what is meant by all things are possible if you believe they are. Jesus didn't say all things are possible if you believe they are, but you can't do this, and you can't do this, and you can't use the power for this, and you can't use it. He said all things. When do you get to be free? When you forgive enough, when you let go enough? They've convinced you you're not free now. Science of mind starts from you're holy and you're free, and there's this infinite power available to you so you can use it. And then, where the rubber meets the road, is where Ernest talks about you have to start using this stuff. He says in our movement there is a propensity for too much theory and too little practice. We walk around, admiring ourselves because we read these hundreds of different books and all these different philosophies. And then when we move into a specific problem, we don't know what to do. Because this philosophy says you need to do this, and this philosophy says, well, you need to do this, and this philosophy says, well, you need to do this, and this philosophy says you need to do this. And when we don't know what do we do? We let go and let God. Ernest is real specific. God has no plan for you. Nor does God have any desire for you. This infinite presence. Ernest is real clear that this law, this power responds to your belief. This is what Jesus meant when he said all things are possible if you believe they are. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believing you shall have it, you shall have it. He did not say unless God has a bigger plan for you. He didn't say whatever you ask for in prayer, believing you shall have it, you shall have it. He didn't say unless you have a sacred contract you need to fulfill, in case you got some karma you need to deal with. Those are other philosophies. They're not ours. Our philosophy is you're holy and you're powerful. And for you to understand your power and authority, you must use it. You must use it. On page 241, he says, you must use this power to help yourself first. For you have to prove to yourself that the power is available and that you can use it. Begin to contemplate this power answering your every need. Begin contemplating that this power is supplying your every want, and it's fulfilling your every wish.